Hello there, this is Tim. I'm back for another video. This time I'm going to be taking you through the evolution of the iPod Classics, hardware-wise. I'll do software at a future time, but currently I'm in the process of writing a book all about the iPod. And in that book, I'm going to be going through evolution. And in this video, I hope to just do some basic things as far as how the iPod hardware has evolved over these many years. And today I'll just be doing the original iPods, the classics. I won't be diving into the nanos or shuffles or anything like that. I'm just going to be taking you through iPod Classic 1 through 6. I've got all the different models that have come out, and I'm just going to be taking you through how it's gone from this original here to the classic that we now have today. Without further ado, let's just dive into it. So this is the original iPod right here. And this is the one we have now. This is the 6th gen. So let's get rid of the 6th gen until we actually make it there. So the original iPod was a very unique device in many ways. So first off, holding it in your hand was a fantastic thing. The thing that Apple, rightly did, but kind of to the demise of the holdability of a product, they made the iPod thinner and thinner over the generations. Now, specs, that makes sense. Carrying it around in your pocket, that makes sense. Practically all avenues of evolution, that makes sense to do a thinner design in all regards. Nothing really, except for one thing, makes it a turn down. The turn down here is holdability. Now, the thickness of this original iPod made it so it was more comfortable to hold. The original iPod had curves on all the corners, and it made it very comfy to hold. It was a wonderful thing to hold in your hand. And that is something they did away with as future generations evolved. The 6th generation, most notably, is very sharp on the corners. And as a result, much less holdable from that viewpoint. Something to note with the original iPod is that this physical wheel moves. So it's hard to tell in this video, but this wheel is moving, and it's physical move. And when you're operating this iPod, it's an incredible thing. It's an incredible thing to witness that moving here. So the original iPod, fairly thick, had FireWire, had a headphone jack, and a hold switch. And bottom, nothing. The back is most notable here, having the old text of iPod being in that font, that typeface. Much different from where we went next, which was the iPod 2nd generation. You'll notice the text has changed right here. There we go. So this is the 2nd generation. The only big change here as we move forward is it is now a touch wheel. Apple decided, let's make this touch because it's less prone to damage. Less moving parts, the better. That's why they go to SSD. That's why they do all these things they do. This is not moving, and as a result, this wheel, I'm not sure if it shows any different, but it's not moving. Less fun to touch, less fun to interact with, the less tactile experience. So in many ways, I regard the original iPod Classic the best iPod ever made. The design was simple. The interface was simple. I'll get the interface in a different video, and it felt great in the hand. And it simply was a fantastic device. The 2nd generation was still fantastic, but I do not like this touch wheel that unfortunately we have to go to, because if you're using this on the beach, things like that, you want to get rid of that kind of stuff. The only other change here, FireWire now has a hole to cover it, a cover thing there, and the hold switch is slightly different. Everything else, same, pretty much exactly, except for the font, things like that, and the storage capacity. So as we move from there, this design is a classic, right? This is what made the iPod the iPod. This is the design here. And it was something I did not point out yet. And something really interesting is, if you'll notice in this video here, the original iPod design had this clear rim of plastic that put this halo around the iPod. You'll notice this in this view here. As you can see right at the top there, a clear halo. This is the only iPod, or one of the few iPods that has that clear layer plastic. The only other device that has this in Apple's lineup is the 1st generation iPod Nano. The Nanos have an odd similarities to the classics in many design aspects. And the 1st gen Nano has this design link with this clear plastic that is not found in any other iPod. So that's just something to note before moving on, that this design is epic. It is awesome. The clear design gives you a sense of I don't know, awe, I guess. It's just a wonderful thing to behold. Now we move from this iPod, this fantastic design, to the big failure, I believe. This thing sold a lot of units, but the iPod 3rd generation was and is a mess, I believe. This is the 3rd generation. Now, there are many reasons why this product here is a failure in my mind. So first off, the interface. You have these 4 buttons up top replacing these buttons around here. Now, when you're navigating around the wheel, you are able to quickly know which is at the top, bottom, left, and right. On this design here, you don't have that. As you're scrolling through, you have to haphazardly you have to actually look down the screen. So first off, you have to look at this at the device when you want to change out of something. Nextly, the wheel itself, look at the size difference. The wheel itself is tiny. It does not feel good, the move around, as good as this one did. Just the feeling, the tactile feel has degraded quite a bit here. Also, there is no physical button of any kind. So this physical wheel here is now digital here. And there is a great sensation that happens when you actually have a physical wheel. So no physical wheel, big, or buttons is a big downer. This is a terrible idea. No physical buttons here, or even on the center. The only thing of benefit that arrived here is this dock connector. This is when Apple introduced the dock connector. Actually, I believe it was introduced with the iPod mini, but around this time period was when the dock connector came out, and that was a great thing to have. The font stayed the same. The thickness was reduced. They got rid of that thin, clear plastic layer, and they added this accessory port up top. And overall, nice feel in the hand, but both on a usability perspective and also, I might note, usability and also just the look. It is an ugly iPod. I believe the ugliest iPod Apple has ever made. It only ever looks good when you put it in a dark setting where you have to have lights and stuff like that. So this is the 3rd gen iPod. Let's move now to the 4th generation iPod. And this is the first iPod I ever had when it was out as an official product. So moving from that, now we have the 4th generation. Now, the 4th generation had a long lifespan. It started off as a mono screen, the same as the first 3 generations, but it added a photo to the line. We had this time period where the photo, it retailed for up to $600, if I recall correctly. And it was a great thing, this photo iPod. And eventually, Apple merged that in the summer before the release of the 5th generation. They merged that photo into just a color iPod, and they got rid of the black screen. So it was a long lifespan. It was a lot of different SKUs involved, but this is the design that retained, except for the screen that changed out. So this is where we evolved from. Apple saw this failure here with the physical button separating. They saw the failure with the non-physical wheel there and all those different things. They saw that, and they wanted to bring back the original classic, and the original classic in a good way. So they developed this thing called the click wheel. This is the first instance of it, I believe, or it could have been another iPod in this era. But this click wheel, you have physical buttons. These click. That's why it's called the click wheel. These actually click. 3rd generation, no clicks. These click, and they're right along the wheel, which is perfect. Also to note, the accessory port up top was retained in the almost same position, almost about there. In the bottom, dock connector enabled, and nothing else much to report there. So overall, a major design win here when we move to that 4th generation. And the 4th generation really does feel great in the hand. It's got enough thickness where it's still comfortable to hold, things like that. 4th generation iPod, that's the first one I ever had as a kid growing up. Now from there, Apple moved to the 5th generation iPod. Now, this is the U2 edition of it, but just some things to note here. It's gotten remarkably thinner as we move towards it. So 4th generation, 5.5 generation. So the thinness is great on a couple of different levels, and it's also bad on one level. So it's bad on the level that holdability you can feel the corners. You can actually feel those corners. And they're not nearly as rounded as they used to be. And that is just something that happened. It's something, as Apple designs these things, sometimes they're just not as comfortable to hold. This is evident in the iPhone line, where you go from 3G, 3GS, very rounded, more comfortable to hold in the hand, to iPhone 4, which is an elegant feel, but you feel the corners, you feel the jarringness of that. So that's something to note. That thinness did do that. Another thing to note, the click wheel, this one is raised from the surface. The 5th generations are indented, and also there's the screen got much better, going from 4 to 5, brighter, all color, bigger screen, things like that. And the interface is much different, and I'll get that later. The YouTube edition has special signatures, things like that. So that's the 5th generation. It's largely just an overhauled, updated 4. So the 4, iPod 4th generation, great device. They just made that even better. So it's sort of like the 1 to 2 jump a little bit more so, I'd say. A lot more so, actually, with the interface designs, the color screen, all that kind of stuff. But, it's design-wise, when you're just looking at them, very similar, kind of a 1 to 2 jump. Now let's move ahead to where we're at today. So today we are at this point of a big radical design shift. We are at the point of using aluminum instead of plastic in our iPod Classics. There's available in black and silver, as I have the silver. And the click wheel is almost exactly the same. The material, it feels, is slightly different, though. The material used here is a different material for the click wheel. It's a better feeling material in my viewpoint here. The all aluminum thing is a nice feel in the hand. For the top part of this, it's nice to touch the top. This is the most jarring as far as holding your hand. I can feel right down there. I can feel the jaggedness, the sharp edges, and it's not a comfortable thing to hold in the hand. But with that said, the thinness of this device is remarkable, and that lets you put it in your pocket, and that's an awesome thing. Now, the thinness is amazing because the original iPod was this thick. Now, consider this. This part up here, the white and the clear, is around the same thickness as the new iPod. So, look at the silver. That silver is almost, look at the difference there. The thinness is incredible. There is no accessory dock up there. That was removed, I believe, yes, in the 5th generation. So that's that. The dock connector remains, and overall, it's a very sleek device. One thing that the price thing has been remarkable, going down to $250 for this model, 160 gigabytes. But this is just kind of the evolution of the iPods. It's been a crazy, not crazy, but it's been cool to watch these things develop and grow over the years. And these are the iPods. So all 6 generations. And this has just been the hardware. I'll be doing software at a future date, but here you go, a little overview. How has the iPod evolved over the past decade from the original to today's iPods? I hope this video has been instructional or entertaining at the very least, and please stay tuned for my book that I am working on. From all of this knowledge base that I have, I'm working on this book, and I'm excited to release. It'll be about 300 pages through the iBooks author tool, and I'm going to be just going full out. How has the iPod evolved? This is the first video I've released on YouTube showcasing these iPods and how they have changed from 2001 to now, 2012. Thanks for watching. You can find my daily Apple News show, I Wake, at iwakepodcast.com. Thanks for watching once again. Aloha.